Hare Krishna. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradaite Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratvashe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, some points from yesterday. Yes, bro.
Brahmachari, like he changed his ashram.
So in what context we said that?
Means God only can protect us.
That is correct. In what context we said?
Like we take shelter of money, wealth, and all the things.
What context of the Bhagavad Gita did we say?
We have to surrender to Krishna only.
How many remembers in what context this point was discussed? Huh?
Started discussing that everybody in this world is in crisis.
No, that's okay. What? नहीं वो तो कल नहीं हुआ. हाँ, next है वो.
Qualification,
हाँ?
academic qualification or material that is cannot solve life's problem.
हाँ, in what context? Bhagavad Gita context. Correct. Kripana. So Prabhupada writes about Kripana, that the Kripana is overly dependent on his family members and all that. Yes, that's the point. Okay, some other points?
Bhagavad Gita is told at the time of crisis, so it is for solving problems of life.
Okay. Thank you. Somebody else?
We have discussed about the lok vichar,
Mm.
like what people are saying. So it will be helpful in preaching.
So again, what was the context?
Context was like this. Okay.
Saving quote rather than person.
So what is the topic? What was the topic we were discussing?
So we have discussed about what ISKCON is practically doing to the society. So like social welfare, people may think. So if somebody is drowning, so we should not just left him. We should try our best, keeping ourselves safe. And if we have ability, we can try to save him, so that people will.
So what was the topic that was being discussed? Huh? Yes, material
Material
compassion.
compassion.
So Prabhupada is speaking right in the first sentence of the first verse. He's talking about material compassion. Yes. Yes, Ujjwal Prabhu? Hmm. Okay, the son of the rich father is lost. Yes. Okay, good.
Discuss about two things. The verse number 2.7 and 2.8. You made a two group, and how that Arjuna's dilemma and surrender to Krishna. What are the what was
General
that,
principles.
general person we can draw?
General
We
principles
can draw
and the application of
in
those
that.
principles. Okay. Okay. How come Chandan Prabhu is here today? Special
Honorary.
any special purpose or oh good. Rare souls think of revising Bhagavad Gita.
Then you discuss about Raji that about that how individuality and eternality of soul.
Which verse?
That is Natve Vaham Jatunasam
12th verse. Yes. So there Krishna is speaking about the eternality and individuality of the soul. And in that verse, Krishna defeats Mayavad. How? I mean, Prabhupada defeats Mayavad. How? 3 points. 3 points defeating Mayavad. Give it to Vamsudha.
Order I don't remember, Prabhu. I'll just state.
Hmm.
It's clearly mentioned in the verse that it is like it's I am going to be there, you are going to be there, and all these things are going to be. So that means they are individuals before, now, and then in future also. That is one. And second is what Prabhupada says is like if Krishna is as is same as us, if his individuality doesn't have any any difference, then he says then what is the point? What is the difference between this entire Bhagavad Gita? If he is as good as us being in a material condition, then there is
So
no
the Mayavad point of view is that the individuality is on material grounds.
material ground, yes.
But then Krishna is also speaking about his individuality. So if Krishna's individuality is also material, then what is the point in
Bhagavad Gita.
hearing the Bhagavad Gita? Right. Okay, fine. So we'll continue with the 13th verse. Well-known verse, 13th verse. Dehi nausmen yatha dehe kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantara praptis dhiras tatra namuyati. As the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. Purport.
Since every living entity is an individual soul, each is changing his body every moment, manifesting sometimes as a child, sometimes as a youth, and sometimes as an old man. Yet the same spirit's soul is there and does not undergo any change. This individual soul finally changes the body at death and transmigrates to another body. And since it is sure to have another body in the next birth, either material or spiritual, there was no cause for lamentation by Arjun on account of death, neither for Bhishma nor for Drona, for whom he was so much concerned. Rather, he should rejoice for their changing bodies from old to new ones, thereby rejuvenating their energy. Such changes of body account for varieties of enjoyment or suffering according to one's work in life. So Bhishma and Drona, being noble soul, were surely going to have spiritual bodies in the next life, or at least in the heavenly bodies, for superior enjoyment of material existence. So in either case, there was no cause of lamentation. Any man who has perfect knowledge of the constitution of the individual soul, the super soul, and nature, both material and spiritual, is called a dhira, or a most sober man. Such a man is never be deluded by the change of bodies. The Mayavadi theory of oneness of the spirit soul cannot be entertained on the ground that a spirit soul cannot be cut into pieces as a fragmental portion. Such cutting into different individual souls would make the supreme cleavable or changeable against the principles of the supreme souls being unchangeable. As confirmed in the Gita, the fragmental portions of the Supreme exist eternally, Sanatana, and are called Shara. That is, they have a tendency to fall down to material nature. These fragmental portions are eternally so, and even after liberation, the individual soul remains the same fragmental. But once liberated, he lives an eternal life in bliss and knowledge with the personality of Godhead. The theory of reflection can be applied to the super soul, who is present in each and every individual and is known as the Paramatma. He is different from the living entity. He is different from the individual living entity. When the sky is reflected in water, the reflections represents both the sun and the moon and the stars also. The stars can be compared to the living entities and the sun or moon to the Supreme Lord. The individual fragmental spirit soul is represented by Arjun and the Supreme Soul is the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna. They are not on the same level as it will be apparent in the beginning of the fourth chapter. If Arjuna is on the same level with Krishna and Krishna is not superior to Arjuna, then their relationship of instructor and instructed becomes meaningless. If both of them are deluded by illusory energy, Maya, then there is no mood of one being the instructor and the other are instructed. Such instruction would be useless because in the clutches of Maya, no one can be an authoritative instructor. Under the circumstances, it is admitted that Lord Krishna is the Supreme Lord, superior in position to the living entity, Arjun, who is a forgetful soul deluded by Maya.
So here Krishna is beginning his specific description about the nature of the spirit soul. And here is describing how the spirit soul is eternal and transmigrates from one body to another. So Srila Prabhupada has quoted this verse so many times. Hundreds and hundreds of times has quoted this and so many lectures on the verse. And Srila Prabhupada would often say that this is such a simple logical point that Krishna is saying. Even in this life, body is changing. So now one has a youthful body, and where has the childhood body gone? Therefore, people take so many photographs, isn't it? Because they know that after some years, they're not going to see that body again. So even in this life, the body is constantly changing. And Prabhupada says, even according to medical science, the body is constantly changing. So what is the analogy Prabhupada gives to illustrate this? That actually the body is changing at every moment. But it appears as if it is the same body that is growing, but actually every moment is a different body. But it appears as if the same body is changing. What's the analogy? Huh? Yes, the film reel or the film spool. So every picture is separate. Every picture is separate. But when those pictures are played at a certain speed, what is the speed? Okay, engineering forgotten. Good. Huh? Yeah, some speed, everyone knows some speed. Huh? 16 what? Okay, 16 frames per second. Okay. Okay, so because they are going at a certain speed, so therefore it appears as if the pictures are continuous, but actually they're all separate pictures. So that similarly, there are separate bodies, different bodies that are manifesting, but because it's happening continuously, it appears as if the same body is changing. And so even in this life, the body is continuously undergoing changes, they're different bodies. And then, of course, after some years, then it's as if it's a totally different body altogether. Srila Prabhupada gives the example many times he speaks about how he remembers when he was 6 months old, he was sitting on the lap of his elder sister who was knitting some sweater. So he remembers when he was 6 months old, but now he's old man, but still he's the same person. Now the body is totally different. So in this way, in this life also, the body is constantly changing. Then what is the difficulty to understand that after this body is finished, there will be another body? So even though it is such a simple logical truth, why do the materialists not want to accept this? Why they don't want to accept? Where is God in the picture here? Then what's the problem? Then what's the problem? They will not be able to do sense gratification. Why? Ah. Okay, so that's good. Now you can enjoy this life. Be happy. Because then as soon as you bring soul into the picture, then immediately the concept of transmigration comes, next life comes. Then that means you'll get another body based upon the activities of this life. Then how can we enjoy? Because then there's fear. If I do something wrong, I'll get punishment. So therefore they coolly avoid the whole concept of the presence of the soul and transmigration. So that no problem. What to do? We don't know about all this. So how does Prabhupada refute that? Achyut Bro?
Everyone.
Correct. Ignorance of law is no excuse. So even if a child puts the hand in fire, the fire will not say, oh, small child, let me. No, the fire is going to burn. So whether one accepts it or not, what's another example Prabhupada gives? And yes, the criminal or somebody who violates the traffic rules, saying that I didn't know. No, you knew or you didn't know. But still, if you violate, then you'll have to pay the fine. अभी 1 सेकंड पहले ही बोला हूं. So that's correct. So that's how ignorance of law is no excuse. Just because somebody says, oh, I didn't know, whether you accept it or not. Then Prabhupada gives another example to logically establish that even if somebody says, oh, I don't believe in the next life, how does he refute that? I don't believe in the next life. Correct. Correct. So if a child says, no, I will not become young man, or if a young man says, I will not become old, most young people don't want to become old, correct? Correct? So here everyone is young. So you accept you'll become old? No doubt. Whether you accept it or not, you will have to become old. Have to become. So therefore, similarly, whether one accepts it or not, one will have to accept another body based upon one's activities in this life. So then, so Srila Prabhupada says he was giving lecture at some place in some university. And then Srila Prabhupada was speaking on this point. And as he always says in so many lectures, If you behave like cat and dog in this life, then next life you'll have to take the body of a dog and suffer like the dog on the street. So then one student, he stood up and said, Swamiji, what is wrong if I become dog in the next life? Anyways, I'll forget everything about the previous life. So what is wrong? So what's the refutation for this? What? That's all right, but how will you philosophically refute it? Whether you give blessings or not, he'll become dog anyways. But how can you prevent him from becoming dog?
Prabhuji, we can ask that person if suppose if you become dog in South Korea or China, then it's
So
very
what? South Korea, China, America, what difference does it make? Anyways,
In-
I'll forget everything.
Yeah, in US generally they are kept nicely, but if you go to South Korea or
Whatever it
China,
is, whatever it is, I'm going to forget about my previous life. So what difference it? Huh, Ujjwal bro? Well, that's okay. Now also I'm facing next life also I'll face. What is the problem? Hmm? What you're talking? Where's the freedom? In dog, Prabhupada actually says this. So some people think as dogs they can freely mate on the street without any restriction. As human beings, so much restriction is there. So what you're saying? Huh?
Even in dog's body, if you see, compared to human being, the struggle is quite more for food, clothing, and shelter.
So
So
there's no clothing only. There's no shelter also. And food is available on the street. And mating also on the street. So you decide which is more better. The humans have to struggle for all. So becoming dog is better. What do I care? Lower, higher. I'm getting nice sense gratification. Okay, okay. Let's hear what going through is going to enlighten us on. Dog going to. Ah? I'm going to forget all that. Before hell, afterwards also hell. Now, this was Srila Prabhupada's refutation. So Prabhupada said, okay, next life you will become dog. You're ready for that. You say you're ready for that. Then what if I make you dog right now? Are you ready for that? You're saying you're ready to become dog, but what if I make you dog right now? Are you ready for that? So then what he can say? So this is Prabhupada's powerful refutations. So then the man has to keep quiet. Nothing to say. So the point is that, yes, ultimately one has to accept these facts, and a dhira, a sober person, he can understand these things. Somebody who is not extremely affected by the needs of the body and the senses. So to the degree one has uncontrolled mind and senses, then it's very difficult to understand all this philosophy. As we were hearing in today's morning's class, also Srila Prabhupada was saying that because the Western civilization, they cannot understand spirituality because they are what? Blockheaded. Because of performing sinful activities, they cannot understand all these things. Okay. Now, another point Prabhupada is speaking about. Okay, before that, let's read this Prabhupada's lecture. Hmm.
Krishna defeats Arjun's argument of compassion. Now, our point is, as from the mother's womb, from the very beginning of our birth, as the body develops. Similarly, after coming out of the body, it also develops. But the spirit spark is there, the same. The body takes development. So, now that development from the small child, he becomes a bigger child. Then he becomes a boy, then becomes a youth, and then gradually old man like me. And then gradually, when this body is no longer useful, then it has to be given up and another body has to be taken. This is the process of transmigration of soul.
Continue.
I think there is no difficulty to understand this simple process. Now the soul is there and the body is transforming every moment, imperceptibly. Just like if you have seen some of your friends' child small, and after 5 years you go to that friend's house and see that child. Oh, you have grown so big. You have grown so big. But the father, mother cannot see because they are seeing daily. They do not see that how my child is growing daily. But a man who comes all of a sudden after 5 years, he says, oh, the child is grown up.
In one lecture, Prabhupada is remembering the previous day, he had met the daughter of one man, one Mr. Banerjee. So he had seen that girl in 1955. And then he's seeing again in 1974. How many years? 19 years. So then Prabhupada is recollecting. So I saw when she was just a small kid, and now as I'm seeing after 19 years, totally different. There's no similarity at all. But still, the father and mother say, no, this is my daughter. Same daughter that you have seen 19 years ago. It is same daughter. But the body is totally different. Right. Another point Prabhupada is making is the Mayavadi theory. So what is the Mayavadi theory? The Mayavadi theory is that the different spirit souls, they come from the one supreme Brahman. They become individual souls. And then after liberation, they once again merge into that one supreme Brahman. So then that means there's one supreme spirit that is being like cut into pieces, into different souls. And then afterwards, they again merge. But then, how Prabhupada is refuting that? The supreme spirit is not cleavable, cannot be cut. That's one of the qualities of spirit that is coming in the further verses. The spirit cannot be cut into pieces like any material object. And so therefore, it is not that the spirit souls are cut from the supreme spirit, but they're eternally part and parcels. Okay, they're eternally part and parcels of the Supreme Lord. And but because they are fragmental portions, they have a tendency to fall, kshara. And then the Paramatma, so there is the Atma, the Paramatma that is present in every body. And therefore he gives the analogy of theory of reflection, that just like if you have, say, 100 pots with water, then in each of the pots, one sees that there's a reflection of the sun, the moon, the stars. Of course, sun and moon are never seen together. But the point is that you see the reflection in all the pots. So even though it is only one sun or one moon, in each of the pots, there is a reflection. So similarly, it is the one Paramatma that is present, but it appears as if there is a different Paramatma in every body. So it is not that the Paramatma has been cut or the individual souls have been cut and they have been put into different bodies. So just like it is one sun, but is reflected in different parts, and it appears as if there are different suns. Similar is one Paramatma who is present in all the bodies, but it appears as if there are different paramatmas. All right. Okay, so now Arjuna may say, okay, your philosophy is very nice. After all, they're spirit souls, they're not going to die, they'll get new bodies. So then, rather than lamenting, Arjuna should be happy that their Bhishma, Drona are going to get new bodies. So Arjuna says, okay, your philosophy is good, but the fact is, I have relationship with them in the bodies of Bhishma and Drona. They as spirit souls may get new bodies, but what is my relationship with them? Can I have relationship in their new bodies? No. I don't know where they will go in another body. That time I cannot have relationship with them because my relationship is in their current bodies as Bhishma and Drona. That's a problem, right? It's a problem or no? That's a problem. And so therefore, in answer to that question of Arjuna, Krishna speaks the next verse. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkadaha agama paino nityastam stitikshasva bharata. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception of skandha bharata, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. Purport.
In the proper discharge of duty, one has to learn to tolerate non-permanent appearances and disappearances of happiness and distress. According to Vedic injunction, one has to take his bath early in the morning, even during the month of Magh, January, February. It is very cold at that time, but in spite of that, a man who abides by the religious principles does not hesitate to take his bath. Similarly, a woman does not hesitate to cook in the kitchen in the months of May and June, the hottest part of the summer season. One has to execute his duty in spite of climatic inconveniences. Similarly, to fight is the religious principle of the Kshatriyas, and although one has to fight with some friend or relative, one should not deviate from his prescribed duty. One has to follow the prescribed rules and regulations of religious principles in order to rise up to the platform of knowledge, because by knowledge and devotion only one can liberate himself from the clutches of Maya illusion. The two different names of address given to Arjuna are also significant. To address him as Kaunteya signifies his great blood relation from his mother's side, and to address him as Bharata signifies his greatness from his father's side. From both sides, he is supposed to have a great heritage. A great heritage brings responsibility in the matter of proper discharge of duties. Therefore, he cannot avoid fighting.
So Krishna is saying, yes, what you say is true. Your relationship with them as Bhishma and Drona will be cut. You will not have that relationship any longer. So what to do? Tolerate. In the performance of your duty, there are going to be difficulties, challenges, but one has to simply tolerate. And so this is an important principle which Krishna keeps on repeating throughout the Bhagavad Gita. So this is one of the symptoms of one in the mode of goodness. So in the mode of goodness, one is more attached to duty than personal conveniences and inconveniences. In the mode of goodness, one has the determination to continue on in the performance of one's duty, even though there may be challenges and difficulties. So that's mode of goodness. And of course, on the transcendental platform, one performs the duty because, yes, to please the Supreme Lord. So we may not be on that high platform that we have love and we want to please the Supreme Lord. So if I'm not on that platform, then at least I have to perform the activity as a matter of duty because I have been told to do, let me do it. There may be challenges, difficulties, but let me do it. So if one continues in that way, then that's how the mode of goodness then will increase. If one becomes a victim of the dictations of the mind, then the modes of passion, ignorance will increase. And in the modes of passion and ignorance, there cannot be steadiness because one will abide by the dictations of the mind. Okay, today it seems to be a little cold, 1 degree lower than yesterday. So maybe I should not go for Mangalarti today. You know what's the temperature now in North India? Huh? What's that? Which digit? You're on the higher side still. It's 5, 6. 5, 6. Here there's bright sunlight. They don't see sunlight till, if they're fortunate, they will see by 12 in the afternoon. Yes. We had some in Mayapur for a few days, such scenes occurred. Not much. But in North India, it's a daily affair during these winter months. So somebody may so think about it. So here the practically no one is wearing even a sweater. So there's a sense gratification here. But even in such a situation, the mind will always find excuses. Why not to perform the duty? Therefore, it is very important. This is a very important principle that Krishna is speaking about here. So, what are the different ways we can increase our level of tolerance? Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has spoken how tolerant one must be. Not like more than the tree. So, why the comparison with the tree? Say that? And going through all that, still giving fruits. And what's your point? Give shade. And still continues to give shade. So that's the tolerance of a tree, huh? Correct. He can't ask anyways. But the point is that that's the example which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving, because that's the level of tolerance that is expected of a Vaishnav. That's the level of tolerance that is expected. It's up to us to think, how close am I to that? So how to come close? Okay, discuss how to increase level of tolerance in our practices as devotees. How to increase? Discuss. So actually, this is the complete question. Okay, done? Oh yeah. Chandan Prabhu, you only have to give blessings now. You can raise your hand like this and give blessings. Okay, fine. Let's begin from there. One point. Okay. If you have a story, you tell a story, but at least one point of how to increase tolerance.
Example is bus party.
Hmm.
In bus party, we go, we have to tolerate many.
What you tolerate?
There is no any proper.
But you get place, no? And you get prasadam also, no? What is the proper mode? Okay, fine. So if one is in the proper mood of pleasing Prabhupada and making spiritual advancement, okay, fine. Next. उसको यहीं रख दो, उसको यहीं रख दो.
Krishna. We can increase our tolerance if we see the devotee in the sense that Lord sees loves the devotee more. Then if we want to love, if I want to love Krishna, then we should also be loving the devotees, his devotees, because Krishna loves his devotees. So it will give me some tolerance power to tolerate in whatever degree.
Okay, fine. So, okay, seeing the connection of the devotees with Krishna, that Krishna loves them. So even though they're doing some nonsense, we tolerate. Correct?
Yes. That's what we have to tolerate.
So what we have to tolerate? No, your point is correct, but I'm just trying to understand a little more deeply. So what do we have to tolerate amongst the devotees?
Because in devotees, many anarthas are there among ourselves. So whatever anarthas is there in others, we have to also tolerate, because we have to see that one day, someday or other, they will be get purified. And then whatever anartha is there, that I have to tolerate, because Krishna loves, because Krishna says sadhu reva samantavya, because they are
Okay.
very much strongly fixed up in the devotion to Krishna.
Okay, good
So that's
point.
what I have to
Yes.
tolerate.
Okay, fine. So even though there may be some anarthas, some shortcomings, so still one tolerates because Krishna loves. Okay, fine, good.
Like in now winter season, so hot water is not available, so cold water is there.
Hmm.
Too much cold water, and so that time we are taking cold water by considering that, oh Suraj, you are not this body. Why you are fearful?
Acha. At that time you remember, you're not the body.
Forcefully we have to remember that, because
Acha.
anyhow hot water is not going to get.
Ah. Okay, so
So
you're
by remembering that our constitutional position, we are soul, so we can take bath in that cold water.
okay, good. But then, of course, the question is how can we be in that consciousness?
For long term it's difficult, but for that same time,
So that's what. Then how
till
to
the time-
increase the time?
if we will get some same situation difficulties, so maybe
Actually, you'll ask for more. You want more such difficult
that-
situations.
that's very difficult
Ah.
to tolerate that.
Hmm. Okay, okay, your point is correct. Okay, my understanding the philosophy. Okay.
So here, like the tenu kampasu samikshamanam, that one verse comes.
Hmm.
In that verse, by understanding that what I am currently tolerating, I could have like because of my karma, I could have been given more things to suffer, but by Krishna's grace, it is little less.
Okay, okay, this is one valid point. So by understanding that ultimately whatever suffering and conveniences are basically anukampa, Krishna's mercy. So on basis of that principle, one tolerates. Okay, fine.
So, and always try to, always remembering and contemplating the difficulties and the austerity our previous acharya and guru has gone through. So by remembering them, we can able to get the strength to develop more tolerance for.
Yes, this is a very good important point. That is by getting inspiration from other devotees, previous acharyas, Srila Prabhupada. So by reading about their lives and what they went through, then yes, then one can increase one's tolerance. Okay, good.
If we are clear about the goal for what purpose we had come here, we can tolerate the small difficulties.
Right, understanding, keeping the goal in mind.
By associating with those devotees from who have been tolerating, like we can see Srila Prabhupada's disciples, how much they are tolerating all types of struggles coming into the movement. So if we associate with them, actually we can get little.
Okay, by associating with other devotees who have tolerated much. Huh?
Like Radhesham Prabhu, he tells ki, like once he asked question to Maharaj, so that time Maharaj answered this ki many has tolerated us, so we have to tolerate.
Okay, that's also a good point. Okay, just like others have tolerated us, then we tolerate others. Okay, anybody else wants to say something?
Roji, Praveen too, and we are in a group. So to attract the mercy of Lord and our seniors.
Okay,
like in
to
the
attract the
example of-
mercy, and what we'll do with the mercy?
That's how we actually get satisfied. Like in the case of Prathu Maharaj, he could have performed 100 yajnas for his satisfaction, but he came to know that by satisfying Brahma's desire, that stop yajna, he actually satisfied himself, Brahmaji, and Supreme Lord personally appeared. So
Okay, good. Yes, sir. Yes, that's a good point. Anybody else?
We can serve under senior Vaishnava and submissively. So all other tendencies will go.
But
and
that is the
diminish.
point. How to become tolerant and submissive? To become submissive, one has to
By-
tolerate,
yeah,
na?
so one is that by reading Leelamrit and see how Prabhupada tolerated all this,
Okay, okay, fine. Anybody else?
Even Haridas Thakur also tolerated.
And that's
So
epitome of tolerance. But of course, yes, we can think of these examples. That's correct.
Prabhuji, discussing on matter actually, what is the issue? It didn't actually in future that will not happen. So discuss on matter, what the issue?
Not clear. हिंदी में बोल.
जो भी टॉयलेट कर रहे हैं हम, तो वो जो फ्यूचर में वो गलती ना करे, उसके ऊपर डिस्कशन करें.
किसके साथ?
सीनियर जिनके जिनके साथ प्रॉब्लम हुआ है.
अच्छा, ठीक है.
That is a
Okay, by discuss. Okay, not to repeat the mistakes and okay, fine. बोल.
Prabhuji, here example is Prabhupada gives example of woman tolerating while cooking in the month of May. So here she tolerates for the pleasure of her loved ones. Means she's
Family
not tolerating
members.
uselessly, but the tolerance is for some purpose. Because by this there will be food in the stomach of her child. So we can keep that in the mind that my tolerance will give pleasure for someone.
Right. So keeping the goal in mind. Okay, good.
Tolerance is one type of austerity.
Yes.
And God's also like austerity, because even materialistic people also do austerity for material goal.
Correct.
And, but our goal is so nice, so we have to do austerity because Vaishnava's austerity lots like.
Yes, that's a good point actually. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur would say, no, we can learn from the materialists. The materialists, how they are tolerating so many difficulties. In Mumbai local trains? When do the local trains start in Mumbai? What time they start? In the morning? No. 12:30 वो पिछले दिन का हो. 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock the locals start. So that means people get up at that time, no? That's what. So you see how much austerity they're taking. And what to speak of hanging on the doors and whatnot. So much austerity. So much austerity. Yes. So the materialists are ready to go through all that austerity because they're convinced about what? Yes. They're convinced about their goal. They're convinced that sense gratification is definitely going to make them happy. Because they're convinced of their goal, they're ready to go through it. So then why not we? So here it says matra sparshastu kaunteya. Matra sparsha. Matra sparsha means what? It is the contact of the sense with the sense objects. That is the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is contact of the sense with the sense object. What is Prabhupada's famous example? So just like the same example, cold water. Cold water in winter is troublesome. The same water in summer is pleasing. Water is the same. Then why the difference? Why the difference? The problem is here, the skin. It is because of the skin which comes in contact with the sense object, the water, then one is perceiving this coldness, hotness, pleasant, unpleasant. So it's all because of the contact of the senses with the sense objects that one experiences dualities. And that's the nature of the material world. The material world is full of dualities, dvandva. And so therefore, dualities are bound to be there in the material world. Because it's a relative world. Relative. Relative means everything Everything is in comparison to something else. That's called relative. So you are able to say that now it is cold because, yes, because there is something hot. Therefore, you can say this is cold. So that's the meaning of relative world. So that's how it is because of these senses coming in contact with sense objects that one perceives the dualities. Matra sparsha. And so, as long as one has the material body, one is definitely going to experience dualities. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says in lectures describing this verse, he says, so therefore, if ultimately one has to get rid of all the dualities, the only solution is what? What? Huh? Get rid of the material body. Because as long as the material body is there, dualities are going to be there. One has to experience sometimes pleasant, sometimes unpleasant. So therefore, so here Krishna is telling Arjuna, yes, these situations are going to be there. You cannot escape them. The only solution is you have to tolerate them in the performance of duty. So sometimes some people think if we change the situation, things will be better. So sometimes some brahmacharis also think if I change the temple, situation will be better. If I change the department, something will be better. But what Shastra is saying? Abrahma bhuvana loka. What to speak of department and temple? You go to Brahmalok also, it's going to be same thing. Where do you want to go? Huh? Vaman? What is true? You have already said may. What is possible? What is possible? Something will be heavy, something will be light. Narad Muni is giving the example to King Prachin Barashat. It is just like what? You take the burden from here and you put it here. That is the only difference. First the burden was here, then now it is here. That is the only difference one will find. Otherwise, wherever one goes in the material world, there is going to be challenges, dualities, difficulties, bound to be there. Bound to be there. It's only an illusion if one thinks that I will get rid of the problems by changing situations. Of course, people change jobs, people change apartments, whatnot people change, thinking that they will get relief. But it's never going to happen. So therefore, the important lesson that Krishna is telling Arjuna is in the performance of duty, the dualities, the difficulties are definitely going to be there. The nature of those difficulties may change. Nature may change, but they are bound to be there. So therefore, one has to learn to tolerate in the performance of duty and go ahead. And go ahead. And what is in the present day age of Kali Yuga, what to speak of relationship problems? Oh, anywhere you go, so many relationship problems. So that's the part of life. Part of life. One has to tolerate. If one doesn't tolerate, that's the reason why people commit suicide. Anyway, it's unfortunate, but in some place we won't tell. But just yesterday evening, one devotee committed suicide by hanging from the fan. Very unfortunate. For a devotee to do that, very unfortunate. But that's what happens when one does not learn to tolerate. So therefore, one has to practice tolerance. One has to practice it. Because then the person, he wants to get relieved of the body, of the material body, by committing suicide. But then, does the problem end? The problem doesn't. It becomes worse. Becomes simply worse. So, therefore, Krishna is telling, learn to tolerate, learn to tolerate. And that's an important point which we need to learn, which we need to practice in our practice of devotional service. Otherwise, becomes very difficult. And that's the reason why the association of devotees is so important. Because when we are in association, then when the difficulties come, the challenges come, then we have someone to talk to reveal our heart to, and find solace and guidance. Very, very essential. Yes, bro. Yes.
Guruji, like many times things are not favorable for our Krishna consciousness. And at that time, should we tolerate it, or should we change, like you told, department change also? So means whatsoever is favorable for Krishna consciousness.
Under guidance. Under guidance. If there is no guidance, then it's all on the mental platform. Today I like this, so I'll change. And tomorrow after going there, then I don't like something else. Then again change. There'll be no end to it. So therefore, then how much is it actually impeding my Krishna consciousness? Is it simply my mind that is tricking me? Or is it actually a difficulty? Because many times the mind gives so many reasons that this is difficult, that is difficult. There's no end to that. So therefore, then if one has superior guidance, then one can actually understand whether it's really an impediment in my Krishna consciousness, or it's simply a trick of the mind. Okay. Hey, Chandan bro, personal. We have one rule for the class. Special guests, silent spectators, only give blessings. Okay, fine, let's proceed. Now, Krishna says, if one tolerates in this way, what will be the result? 15th verse. Yam hi na vyatyantyete purusham purusharshaba samadhukka sukham dhiram so amritvaya kalpate. O best among men, Arjuna, the person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So if one is able to tolerate sama dukkha sukham dhiram, then the result will be amritatvaya, that is liberation. When Prabhupada speaks on this verse, he speaks about how there is eternal life and there's a way to achieve eternal life, but most people do not know about it. But then, and here, interestingly, Prabhupada is speaking about sannyas. And he's saying how sannyas is a painstaking situation, but one who's serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order of life in spite of all difficulties. Severe family relationships, but if one is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. Similarly, in Arjuna's discharge of duties as Kshatriya, he is advised to persevere even if it is difficult to fight with his family members or similarly beloved persons. And Lord Chaitanya took sannyas at the age of 24. for a higher cause. Okay, now Krishna begins his description about the qualities of the spirit soul. In the 16th verse is comparing the qualities of the spirit soul and the material body. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubayorapi drishtvantas, dvanayos tattvadarshibihi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So here you can see Krishna is referring to whom? Tattvadarshibi. He's saying there have been Tattvadarshibi, the seers of the truth, who have experienced the truth. They say. So we will find throughout the Gita, Krishna does it at many places. Krishna gives reference to other sadhus, other acharyas, other experienced people. He gives reference. Why? Why does he do it? He's the supreme authority, correct? Why he has to give reference?
Experience of people like on his stage, because he's on liberable platform. Krishna is God. I said Krishna is God, so he's on a liberated platform, like eternally. So when he gives examples of someone of this side, when they want to encourage someone, he said, no, he's also from same place, no, he's doing good, then you can also do good.
Okay, good point.
Prabhupada in his lectures many times speaks that we should not speak nonsense. Whenever we speak, it should be in parampara. So one of the meaning of parampara is also we repeat whatever has been told. So Krishna is setting the example, like he speaks in 10th chapter also, like those who have accepted him as authority. Like so here also he is saying that not only me, so many exalted personalities also accept.
Right. So basically, Krishna is following the principle of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So Krishna is like the Guru, but then he is giving reference to sadhus. And at some places he even gives reference to Shastra. And so he's following this principle of check and balance system, Guru Sadhu Shastra, setting that example that how we have to give credence, we have to give importance to what other sadhus are saying. And so therefore here he is referring to Tattvadarshibi, other seers of the truth. They have concluded. What they have concluded? Na asata. Na asata. So for the asat, that which is non-existent, that which is material, there is no endurance. Na bhavaha. Na bhava. Asata vidyate na bhava. So for the asat, there is no endurance, there is no permanence. It is all temporary. But then for that which is eternal, sataha, it is abhava. For that which is asat, there is bhava. For that which is sat, abhava. There is no change. It is eternal. So there are these two, ubhayo, ubhayo. So there are these two aspects. There is spirit and there is matter. So we know these points, how the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and mind. That is the difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and the personalist. So everyone accepts the eternality of the soul. Okay.
In third chapter, he says, "Na mama tanu vartante, manushya partha sarvasa." So it's like substantiating what he is going to say in the future.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next verse. Avinashi tu tad viddi yena sarvam idam tadam vinasham avyayasyasya na kashyat kartum arhati. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy that imperishable soul. Okay, I think so. We can read this purport.
This verse more clearly explains the real nature of the soul, which is spread all over the body. Anyone can understand what is spread all over the body. It is consciousness. Everyone is conscious of the pains and pleasures of the body in the part or as a whole. This spreading of consciousness is limited within one's own body. The pains and pleasures of one's body are unknown to another. Therefore, each and every body is the embodiment of an individual soul, and the symptom of soul's presence is perceived as individual consciousness. The soul is described as 1/10,000 part of the upper portion of the hair point inside. Thus, Swet Sarvatra Upanishad 5.9 confirms this. Balagraha Shatah भाग्यशः सततः कल्पितस्य च भागो जीवः सह विज्ञेत
Neya.
स च
Cha
anandaya
anantaya
kalpate.
kalpate.
When the upper point of a hair is divided into 100 parts, and again each of such parts is further divided into 100 parts, each such part is the measurement of the dimension of the spirit soul. Similarly, the same version is stated. केशाग्रशत
शतभागस्य
भागस्यः
शत
सतः
अंश
शंसः
सदृशात्मकः
जीवः सूक्ष्म
सूक्ष्मस्वरूपो
स्वरूपोऽयं
संख्यातीतो
सांख्यातीतो
हि
हि
चित्कनः.
चित्तकनः. There are innumerable particles of spiritual atoms which are measured as 1/10,000 of the upper portion of the hair. Therefore, the individual particle of spirit soul is a spiritual atom smaller than the material atoms, and such atoms are innumerable. This very small spiritual spark is the basic principle of the material body, and the influence of such a spiritual spark is spread all over the body as influence of the active principle of some medicine is spread throughout the body. This current of the spirit soul is felt all over the body as a consciousness, and that is the proof of the presence of the soul. Any layman can understand that the material body minus consciousness is a dead body, and this consciousness cannot be revived in the body by any means of material administration. Therefore, consciousness is not due to any amount of material combination, but to the spirit soul. In the Mundak Upanishad 3.1.9, the measurement of the atomic spirit soul is further explained. Esho nur atma chetasa vidito yasmin pranaha panchadha sham vivishesha pranesha chittam sharvam ato prangam yasmin vishuddhe vibhavanti esha atma. The soul is atomic in size and can be perceived by perfect intelligence. This atomic soul is floating in the five kinds of air: prana, apan, vyana, shaman, and udana. It's situated within the heart and spreads its influence all over the body of the embodied living entities. When the soul is purified from the contamination of the five kinds of material air, its spiritual influence is exhibited. The Hatha Yoga system is meant for controlling the five kinds of air, encircling the pure soul by different kinds of sitting postures, not for any material profit, but for liberation of the minute soul from the entanglement of the material atmosphere. So the constitution of the atomic soul is admitted in all Vedic literatures, and it is also actually felt in the practical experience of any sane man. Only the insane man can think of this atomic soul as all pervading Vishnu Tattva. The influence of atomic soul can be spread all over a particular body. According to the Mundak Upanishad, this atomic soul is situated in the heart of every living entity, and because the measurement of the atomic soul is beyond the power of appreciation of material scientists, some of them assert foolishly that there is no soul. The individual atomic soul is definitely there in the heart along with the super soul, and thus all the energies of bodily movement are emanating from this part of the body. The corpuscles,
Corpuscles.
uh,
Corpuscles.
corpuscles, which carry the oxygen from the lungs, gather energy from the soul. When the soul passes away from this position, the activity of the blood generating fusion ceases. Material science accepts the importance of red corpuscles, but it cannot ascertain that the source of the energy is the soul. Medical science, however, does admit that the heart is the seat of all energies of the body. Such atomic particles of the spirit whole are compared to the sunshine molecules. In the sunshine, there are innumerable radiant molecules. Similarly, the fragmental parts of the Supreme Lord are atomic sparks of the rays of the Supreme Lord, called the name Prabha or superior energy. So, whether one follows Vedic knowledge or modern science, one cannot deny the existence of spirit soul in the body. And the science of soul is explicitly described in the Bhagavad Gita by the personality of Godhead himself.
So here, Krishna is speaking about the influence of the spirit soul within the body. Avinashi tu yena sarvam idam tata. So that which spreads throughout the body, that is avinashi, that cannot be destroyed. So what spreads throughout the body? The consciousness. And so Srila Prabhupada is explaining that how even medical science, they accept that the heart is the main source of energy throughout the body. And then when the person dies, if they don't find any good reason, they say there's heart attack. So Srila Prabhupada explains, but basically what is this heart attack? So the heart has stopped functioning. Why the heart has stopped functioning? Because the soul has left. The soul has left the heart, therefore the heart fails to function. When the heart fails to function, then all other functions stop. So that is the simple reason. So another point Srila Prabhupada makes in his lectures is about the dimension of the soul. So dimension of the soul is so small. So we have no access. So he gives the example. So just because they don't see, they say that there's no soul. So how does Prabhupada refute that? Because they don't see, they say there's no soul. Because the doctors, they cut open the body. Correct? During surgery, they cut open the body. They don't find. So therefore they say, we didn't find anything. So therefore there's no soul. So how do you refute?
Prabhupada says that there are many things which we cannot see, just like there we cannot see our intelligence. So it does not mean that we don't have intelligence. And another
Or
thing,
mind.
mind. And Prabhupada says many things. He said that you have not seen America, but you have known to the authorized sources. So in that way, we can believe in that. Similarly with soul also, we can believe to the authorized scriptures and the persons.
Okay, fine. Some more points? Okay, next.
Even though air is moving, we cannot see the air, but we can feel it. Even the fragrance of flower, we may not be able to see it, but we can feel it. So by seeing the influence, we can understand
Okay,
the presence.
good points. Yes.
Like what is the difference between a dead body and a living body? That's what we.
What's the difference?
That the soul is everything is same. Prabhupada used to say like same hands.
No, say that.
Same hands, same legs. Everything. The person is there, but what is gone? There?
Yes, this was a point which Srila Prabhupada repeated very often. So he would say that you say your father has gone away, but he's lying there. All the bodies is there, organs are there, hands, legs, everything. He's lying there. Why do you say your father has gone? That means you have never seen your father. That means you have never seen your father. Because the person that you have seen to be father, he's still there. But still you say he's not. Now what's something? What?
When he tries to pacify the wives of Hiranyaksha.
That is not 7th canto, 1st chapter.
6th.
Okay, it comes later on. It's not. So what's your
There
point?
it is. There that story comes with wherein that
Which
the
story?
the wives of the warrior cry. Then
Suyagnya, king.
Suyagya, yes, Suyagya. Then Yamraj comes as a Brahman and then
He
tells
comes
him,
a small boy.
Small one tells that, no, whatever you have seen till now is there. You need not cry.
Correct.
If you're crying for something, then that you have never seen.
Correct. Yes. And another point which Srila Prabhupada also says is that the spirit soul cannot be seen because it is spiritual. And we have materialized. So with materialized, we cannot expect to see that which is spiritual. And of course, Srila Prabhupada extends that point to say that if you cannot even see the small particle, the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, you cannot even see that, then how can you expect to see the Supreme Lord? So all these are very logical points Srila Prabhupada would use. Okay. Fine. So after saying this much, then Krishna gives an instruction to Arjuna in the next verse. Antavanta ime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha anashino aprameyasya tasmad yudhyasva bharata. The material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, O fight, O descendant of Bharata. So here there are three qualities of the soul being mentioned. What are they? Anashino, aprameyasya, and nityasya. Nityasya, eternal, never to be destroyed, anashino, and apramesya, immeasurable. But just in the previous verse purport, there was measurement, no? What? Shaka Chandra Nyaya. That is different. Here exact measurement has been told, no? So it was told, no? Then here he is saying it's immeasurable. Whoever, but somebody has measured, na? क्या? हाँ. ठीक है, हाँ.
Prabhupada also explains that there is a tendency, there is chance like soul also evolves. We are put here into a situation where we are caged.
Okay.
So it's the material condition. Soul is conditioned here in material body. But there is also like spiritual body, which means we evolve. So it could increase its size, which means depending on the situation.
Okay, but now it is immeasurable.
But soul is the same, no? Which means it can also evolve.
Okay.
So which means right now it is in the situation, but that is not its actual size.
So then, but then still size has been mentioned.
So that is conditioned, like for to understand, to make some understanding for us.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, that point is correct. Yes.
Even if you consider this previous measurement which was given, 1/10,000 part of a tip of a hair, but again then 1/10,000 part is again the tip of hair, again we can divide it. So it shows that it is to mean that it's so small that we cannot measure it at all. That's to signify that particular point.
Yes. Prabhupada would give this example. They say that point has no length or breadth. But why they say that? Because they cannot measure it. Because they cannot measure it, therefore they say that point has no length or breadth. So similarly, that size that has been told is in one sense an approximation. 1/10,000 tip of the hair. First of all, it is spiritual. Who can measure it? And so therefore it is an approximation. And so the soul remains immeasurable because we don't have any instrument by which, first of all, we can perceive the soul and what to speak of measuring it. So therefore, the Shastra is giving some idea so that we can get some idea of how small the soul is, but actually immeasurable.
I'm not sure about the reference, but is there mention that somewhere it is mentioned that is also like a thumb, half thumb or something?
Okay, that's Paramatma.
Paramatma.
That's Paramatma.
Paramatma
Second
side,
canto.
yes. And also, Prabhuji, there is some debate like where is exactly is soul, because sometimes some intellectual ask that there is no heart for some living entities. So where is soul then residing? So what is the answer for that? I just wanted to know.
Okay, so also they ask the question, so what happens during heart transplant? So what's your answer? Bolo, Praveen.
Actually, soul is more subtle than mind and subtle body.
Correct.
And when heart transplant, in any organ transplant, that time
No, we're not talking about any organ, we're talking about heart transplant. Because
that time,
it's
that time even our feelings also not get
they get transplanted. Ah.
not getting transplanted.
Ah.
We have to speak of soul because soul is more subtler than this.
Okay, so then they ask the question, you say soul is in the heart, then when the heart is transplanted, why?
Soul is in the region of heart.
Hmm. So as you can see in the previous purport, it is mentioned that the soul is what? What? Previous purport. Previous purport. The soul is what? Floating. Yes, so the soul is floating. So it is not that the soul is stuck up. The soul is not fixed to the heart. It is definitely there in the region of the heart. But it is not stuck up. It is simply floating. It is simply floating. And so therefore the soul remains there, even though the heart could be transplanted. And what was your question?
Yeah, there is no physical heart.
The heart is basically the place from where there is generation of energies. So every organism has something like a heart. May not be exactly in the physical shape of a heart and all that, but basically every organism has some place where the energy is being generated. So that's the heart. Okay. And what we were saying? What we were discussing? Immeasurable. Right. So yes, the soul is simply situated in the region. What question?
How is the connection between these pranas and connection of these pranas and soul?
It is because of the presence of the soul that all the pranas become active. So pranas are what? Basically life airs, different type of airs, correct? One is going up, one is going down. So all these pranas which are functioning, they are all able to function because of the presence of the soul. Anything functions because of the presence of the soul. Because that the soul is what gives energy to everything. Okay, okay, fine. We'll take a break. Continue. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Okay, let's continue. "19. Ya enam vetti hantaram yaschainam manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate." Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it slain is in knowledge. For the self slays not, nor is slain. Quite a good twist of words, huh? Okay, purport.
When an embodied living entity is hurt by a fatal weapons, it is to be known that the living entity within the body is not killed. The spirit soul is so small that it is impossible to kill him by any material weapon, as will be evident from the subsequent verses. Nor is the living entity killable because of his spiritual constitution. What is killed or is supposed to be killed is the body only. This, however, does not at all encourage killing of the body. The Vedic injunction is Ma himsat sarva bhutani. Never commit violence to anyone, nor does understanding that the living entity is not killed encourage animal slaughter. Killing the body of anyone without authority is abominable and is punishable by the law of the state as well as by the law of the Lord. Arjuna, however, is being engaged in killing for the principle of religion and not whimsically.
So here Krishna is saying that who is in knowledge? So if somebody thinks that the living entity is the slayer, or if he thinks it's slain, he is not in knowledge, because the soul does not kill nor is killed. Okay, so one part is easy to understand. The soul cannot be killed, correct? Because it is spiritual, not material. So then what is the other part of the verse? The soul is not the killer, nor it is killed. So why it is said the soul is not the killer? Okay.
So actually, person does not act. There also Krishna says, whatever he does in the influence of the three modes of material nature.
Okay, that's correct. So later on, that comes in the third chapter. Prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvaj ahankara vimudatma karta aham mitima. And that's a whole discussion which we'll have in the 5th chapter. So therefore, Prabhupada doesn't focus on that part over here, because that will come later on. But the soul by itself is not the doer of an action. So therefore, it is said the soul does not kill, nor it is killed. But then Prabhupada is making another point in the purport. That does not mean that one is justified to kill. So one cannot say that just because the soul is not killed, or the soul is not the killer, so one cannot say, I can kill anyone, I am not punishable. So that would be what? Misuse of philosophy. That would be misuse of the philosophy. If one thinks that, okay, chalta hai, because anyway, soul is not killed and I'm not the killer also. So therefore, so then if somebody says that on the basis of this verse, so how do you justify? How would you defend?
There are like we desire and Paramatma sanctions. That's
okay. That is correct.
Uh,
But then,
but first of all, the part is we desired wrongly.
No, the
Although-
question is, if somebody on the basis of this verse says, anyway, the soul is not killed, so I can kill. I'm not killing the soul, I'm not killing the person. Only body is killed, that is temporary. So for that, what you'll say?
Like taking the body and the soul apart, it's like we should not become the cause. It should happen naturally. Otherwise, we have to.
No, naturally, anyways, it will happen. But even if I kill, what is the problem?
Because in our killing, violence is involved.
Violence is there, but the person is not killed. Na? You already spoke something.
Srila Prabhupada speaks regarding animal slaughter. He
Ah.
says that because we have not created the body, so we don't have the right to destroy the body also.
Okay.
So in
Okay,
way.
that is one point. Okay, we don't have ability to give life, so we cannot take away life. Correct? Okay, that's one point. But still somebody may say, okay, I cannot give life, but I'm not taking away life also. Okay, agreed. I cannot give life, agreed. But where am I taking life? Soul is eternal, right? So where am I taking away life? Your point is correct. We are just trying to explore a little more. Okay, let's hear from Gaur. सबको प्रश्न समझ में आ गया ना? हाँ.
It is a little dramatic, but I will tell him that okay, then go on the mountain top and fall from there, because you are not going to kill yourself.
So I'm not talking about killing myself. I'm talking about killing others.
So if you are also soul, na, then if you can't kill others, then you can't kill yourself also. So you can jump from the mountain top and not be killed then.
Okay, that's okay. But why should I give pain to myself? Huh?
So why should you give pain to your others?
Okay, but then that he's doing nonsense. So it's justified to give him pain. But I'm not killing him. No? So he may get some pain, but I'm not killing because soul cannot be killed. Your point is correct. Your point is correct. We're just exploring a little more.
Prabhuji, the soul is given some body and some duration to live. And if we kill the body, then soul is going to again, we are breaking the law of God. So again, the soul has to come in the same body again and finish the leftover.
Same species.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. Prabhupada makes this point in other purports that when we kill any animal untimely, then that animal which was supposed to evolve into some higher species has to repeat its duration in the same species. That's one point. But to explain this in a little more graphic way, Prabhupada gives a nice analogy. Wait. Counter argument? Yeah, there can be. We'll come back. So, but what is the analogy Prabhupada gives to explain this point? That see, you kill someone, untimely he is being killed. So because untimely he is being thrown out of that body, therefore he is punishable. No, that's an example, but what's an analogy to explain this? Prabhupada gives simple analogy. He says that, so just like if a person was entitled to stay in a house for a certain period of time, and somebody comes and forcibly throws him out of the house, then he's punishable, right? According to law. How can somebody come and forcibly throw one person out of the house? So therefore he becomes punishable by the law. So similarly, if we are untimely killing someone, we are untimely throwing out that soul, that person out of that body. And so therefore, according to law, that is punishable. Which law? Therefore, Prabhupada is quoting from the Dharma Shastras here. Ma himsyat sarva bhutani. This is law. So this is the law that has been said by the Supreme Lord. The scriptures are saying it. So if I don't follow it, then I'm punishable by the law. Okay, now let's hear Sushmit's counter argument.
As he was telling that like if a person is killed untimely, he has to come again into that similar body. But if we use this argument, then better to kill old people because anyway they are suffering, they will get a new body. Like Krishna also says, I think, and future verses this argument.
So who has given you the right to do so?
Yeah, I'm not that authority, but a counter argument I'm telling, it can be placed.
So, okay, you can place any counter argument, that is fine. But then ultimately, who is going to decide what is right and what is wrong?
Like Dharma or Krishna.
So ultimately, the scripture is going to decide, the law is going to decide. So yes, so one may say, okay, the old person is suffering euthanasia, correct? So therefore kill him. But then what right do I have? I don't have a right.
Person, for like let's say the same example, he has to come into the same body to finish off whatever the specified amount of quota is there. Even if you kill him at the old age prematurely, still he has to. If he says that suffering is the reason, then he has to come back for the executing the same
Yes,
suffering.
that quota of suffering is not nullified. So from a spiritual perspective, that soul, according to destiny, is supposed to suffer so much. So even if somebody commits suicide, somebody is killed like that, for to endure that amount of suffering, then he has to take another body, and in that body, that suffering will continue. He cannot escape. So therefore, yes, so all these are very subtle laws which needs to be understood. Okay, fine. Let's proceed. 20th verse. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचन नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः अजो नित्य शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Okay, so na jayate mriyate kadachit. So the soul is eternal, so therefore there's no question of birth nor death. He's always existing. So therefore he's said to be aja, unborn. Purana, he's the oldest, and he's not killed. So here, so Prabhupada speaks about how the soul is called steady, kutastha, that Krishna says in the further purport. And it's basically the body that undergoes the 6 changes, transformation. The soul does not undergo. Okay. Read the second last paragraph. The soul is full of knowledge.
The soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. Therefore, the consciousness is the symptoms of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of the consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to cloud or for some other reasons, but the light of the sun is always there, and we are convinced that this is therefore daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme, because the Supreme Consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful of his real nature, he obtains the education and enlightenment from the superior lessons of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teaching of Bhagavad Gita would be useless.
Okay, so just by the presence of the consciousness, we can understand that there is life. So therefore, a Vaishnav he doesn't even want to kill the smallest of living entities because there is life. That means part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna is the cause of life. So some Prabhupada gives the example that sometimes we see such a small insect like a full stop on the book. Sometimes it's small, but still it is moving. How it is moving? That means there is consciousness, there is life. So therefore we have no right to kill because there is life. And Prabhupada's challenge is, can you even create that small insect? Can the scientists create? So that consciousness can never be created by chemicals. That we'll discuss later on. Okay. And then next paragraph he says there are two kinds of souls, the Anu Atma and the Vibhu Atma, the soul and the super soul. Okay, 21. Veda Veda vinashnam nityam ya enam ajamavyayam katam sa purusha partha kam ghatayati hantikam. O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Okay, so one who knows that the soul is nitya, he is not killed, then how can he kill, even though he may be killing the body? And again, Prabhupada talks about violence, when violence is justified. Purport. वो है ना वहाँ उज्जवल ग्रुप रीड इट ठीक है पढ़ो कोई तो पढ़ो.
Everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply things for its proper utility. Similarly, violence has also its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he ordered violence to another person according to the codes of justice. In Manu Samhita, the law book of for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in the next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that violence is for the supreme justice. And thus, Arjuna should follow the instruction, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fact fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate the man or rather the soul cannot be killed. So, for the administration of justice, so-called violence is permitted. Surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge. So, there is no possibility of sinful reaction.
Yes, so therefore Krishna is telling Arjuna that because the soul is not killed, therefore you should fight. And so therefore, even though we said that one is not justified to kill, but here Prabhupada is speaking just the opposite. Violence is justified. So who decides whether violence is justified or not? Huh? Yes, one who's in knowledge, the higher authorities, they decide. So therefore, it is, as Prabhupada explains in many lectures, it is not that violence is bad. Prabhupada says violence has always been there in this world. There have been wars since time immemorial. Violence is always there. But then what is important is whether the violence is justified or not. And for that, he's giving two examples. Which are they? What examples Prabhupada is giving for violence being justified? Yes, the person is punished to be hanged, the murderer. So that is for his benefit, because then his sinful reactions reduce. And the second example is the surgeon. So that means violence is justified when it is authorized. And when it is not authorized, it is not justified. So just because the soul is eternal, one cannot unjustly kill, and nor can one say that because the soul is eternal, therefore I should not kill. So whether it's violence or non-violence, both of them is decided on the basis of what is justified on the basis of superior instructions. So for Arjuna not to fight, non-violence was going against the law. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada says that some people, of course, Prabhupada openly took the name of Gandhi, and he said that, so Gandhi wanted to prove non-violence on the basis of Bhagavad Gita. So how it is possible? Krishna is instructing Arjuna to fight. How can you prove non-violence on the basis of Bhagavad Gita? It's not possible. So that is misinterpretation of the Gita. So therefore, it is not I like violence, therefore I will use Bhagavad Gita to prove violence. Or I like non-violence, therefore I'll use Bhagavad Gita to prove non-violence. No, it's not about what I like and what I dislike. So it all has to be decided by higher authorities. Now he's giving an analogy to explain this. Next verse. Vasam sijirna niyata vihaya nava nigrinati naro parani tata sharira nivihaya jirnani anyani samyati navani dehi. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So the basic point is that Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna, who laments when one gets new dress? Anyone laments when he gets new dress? No. One is happy. So that's what Krishna is trying to tell Arjuna. They're going to get new dress, new bodies. So why are you lamenting? So you should be happy instead that they're going to get new dress. And then Prabhupada is given the example of the two birds on the tree. So you know that analogy. That's what Prabhupada writes in the last paragraph. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from various bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reactions and promoted to high status of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. And then next verse again is speaking about the qualities of the soul. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledyantyaapo, na shoshayati marutaha. The soul can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. And as Prabhupada writes that Krishna is specifically speaking this because there are different types of weapons, air weapons, water weapons, and so on. And so therefore, none of these weapons are going to kill the soul. So that's what Krishna is trying to indicate. So Prabhupada writes, fire weapons were countered by water weapons, which are now unknown to modern science. Now do modern scientists have knowledge of tornado weapons. Nonetheless, the soul can never be cut into pieces. And then again, he's speaking about the Mayavad Siddhanta, that how the soul cannot be cut, that we've already discussed. 24. Some more qualities he's speaking. Achedyoyam madayoyam akledyo shosha evacha nitya sarvagatasthano achloyam sanatanaha. This individual soul is unbreakable, insoluble, can be neither burnt nor dried. He is everlasting, present everywhere, unchangeable, immovable, eternally the same. Okay, so achedya is unbreakable. Then adaya cannot be burnt, akledya insoluble, ashochya cannot be dried, nitya everlasting, sarvagata all pervading, sthanu unchangeable, achalaha immobile. So what does immobile mean? Soul is immovable. What does it mean? Huh? Okay, the tree itself is not moving. So therefore, but what about, how can you generalize it? You say, okay, the soul is not moving in the tree, but what about the soul in all the other moving bodies? Huh? No, here what Krishna is saying, soul is immovable, हिलता नहीं है. लेकिन जब शरीर हिलेगा तो आत्मा भी हिलेगा ना. But just now we read that it is floating. Okay, so there's no need to speculate more. So anyway, read this.
Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on 225. Sarvagata, gone everywhere, means that soul goes into all sorts of bodies. such as human, animal, and deva by its karmas.
Okay, so this is one meaning of Sarvagata, that the soul goes into different bodies. Other meaning also is, which Srila Prabhupada explained, that the soul is everywhere, in all planets, everywhere. In fire, in water, everywhere the soul is present. Okay.
Sthanu and achala have the same meaning, having stability, and the repetition makes the meaning clear. Because it is very fine, it is called avyakta. Because it pervades the body with consciousness, it is called achintya and beyond conception. Being devoid of six changes, such as birth, it is called avikarya. And the other meaning is pervading everywhere. But this meaning is not taken since the subject is the jiva, who pervades only his own body. Baldev explains Thanu as having a stable swarupa.
Okay, so previously it says Thanu and Achala have the same meaning. And so what is the meaning? Having a stable Swarupa. So that is the meaning of Achala. So the Swarupa is always the same. What is it? Okay, that is one understanding. Okay. Sachidananda. Yes, the nature of the soul is always the same. And whether you said that or you say Jivara Swarupa Krishna Tidas. So in any case, that Swarupa of the soul does not change. Whichever body the soul takes, the Swarupa of the soul does not change. That is the meaning of Sthanu and Achala. Immovable. Prabhupada explains Sarvagata in his purport, that the living entities are all over God's creation. They live on the land, in the water, in the air, in the earth, and even within fire. So how would Prabhupada refute this? That living entities are present even on the sun planet. Come on, how can somebody live on the sun planet? Refutation? Okay, Pradeep ji? अभी दो माइक है, दोनों गायब हो गया.
To say that just like we are earthly beings staying in earth, there are some beings aquatics who are staying in the water. Similarly, there are some beings who are staying in the fire. He used to say that even scientists have found the fire bacteria.
Correct. So the simple logic is, just because I cannot stay in the water, but there's so many fish who are staying in the water, so many aquatics. So similarly, just because I cannot stay in fire does not mean nobody else can stay in the fire. Yes. Living entities everywhere. Okay, 25. Now, Krishna is sort of concluding his discussion on the qualities of the spirit soul. Avyaktoyam achintyoyam avikaryoyam uchyate tasmadevam viditvainam nanushochitum arhasi. It is said that the soul is invisible, inconceivable, and immutable. Knowing this, you should not grieve for the body. Okay, so Krishna is concluding his discussion about the qualities of the spirit soul. And these are repetitions, of course. He's already said avyakta, achintya, avikarya. So knowing these qualities of the spirit soul is eternal, always existing. You cannot cut it, burn it. So therefore, there is no need to grieve for the body. The soul is going to remain. Nanu shochatum arhasi. Okay. So Prabhupada writes, so just like Prabhupada's famous example, the existence of the father is based upon the authority of the mother. So there is no source of understanding the identity of the father except by the authority of the mother. Similarly, there is no source of understanding the soul except by studying the Vedas. In other words, the soul is inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. Okay, so therefore, he is achintya, inconceivable by human experimental knowledge. One has to simply accept from the Shastra. Okay, so now having stated all this, now Arjuna, he may still say, no, I don't believe all this. You have spoken so much about the soul, but I don't accept. But now Krishna wants to somehow convince him to fight. That is the main business. So therefore, now Krishna, he accepts the theory that there is no soul. So in the next 3 verses, Krishna takes on a sort of atheistic role. And playing that role, he's still trying to convince Arjuna that still you can fight, even if you don't accept the presence of the soul. Okay, so that's how from the next verse, Krishna takes a U-turn and he says, okay, you don't accept the soul? Fine, no problem. So you see how Krishna is so expertly preaching. So even if you don't accept the soul, still you perform your duty. 26. अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि. Atha means if, however. Atha cha enam nityajatam nityam. So even if you think that the soul is nityajatam, means always born, that which is born is going to die. That means what? That means the soul is like the body. If soul is also born and dies, then what is the difference between body and soul? It is the same thing, correct? That means there is no soul. That means there is no soul. It is as good as the body. If, however, you think that the soul or the symptoms of life will always be born and die forever, you still have no reason to lament, O mighty young. And Prabhupada is giving a nice purport. Please read.
Purport. Purport, there is always a class of philosopher almost akin to Buddhists who do not believe in the separate existence of the soul beyond the body. When Lord Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita, it appears that such a philosophers existed and they were known as the
Lokayatikas and Vaibhashika.
Vaibhasikas. Such a philosophers maintain that life symptoms take place at the certain mature condition of material combination. The modern material scientist and materialist people philosopher also think similarly. According to them, the body is a combination of physical elements and at a certain stage the life symptoms developed by interaction of the physical and chemical elements. The science of anthropology is based on this philosophy. Certainly, currently, many pseudo religions who now becoming fashionable in America are also adhering to this philosophy, as are the nihilistic, non-devotional Buddhist sects. Even if Arjuna did not believe in the existence of the soul, as in the Vaibhasika philosophy, there would still have been no cause for lamentation. No one laments the loss of certain bulk of chemicals and stops discharging his prescribed duty. On the other hand, in modern science and scientific warfare, so many tons of chemicals are wasted for achieving victory over the enemy. According to the Vaibhasika philosophy, the uh, so-called soul or Atma vanishes along with the deterioration of the body. So, in any case, whether Arjuna accepted the Vedic conclusion that there is an atomic soul or he did not believe in the existence of the soul, he had no reason to lament. According to this theory, since there are so many living entities generating out of matter every moment, and so many of them are being vanished. Every moment there is no need to grieve for such a incident. If there were no rebirth for the soul, Arjuna had no reason to be afraid of being affected by sinful reaction due to his killing his grandfather and teacher. But at the same time, Krishna sarcastically addressing Arjuna as a Mahabahu, mighty armed, because he at least did not accept the theory of Vaibhasikas which leaves aside the Vedic wisdom. As a Kshatriya, Arjuna belonged to the Vedic culture and it behooved him to continue to follow its principles.
Okay, so this is something like the Buddhist philosophy. So the Buddhist philosophy is what? Voidist philosophy, which Prabhupada is nihilistic, means to nullify everything. So, so the Buddhists say that after this life, nirvana. Now, there's no problem with the word nirvana. The problem is with what? The interpretation of the word nirvana. So, what is their understanding of nirvana? What is their understanding? The Buddhist understanding? No, there's no Brahman. Void. Void. Void means zero. Shunyavad. Shunyavad. Everything is shunya. So after this life is finished, everything merges into shunya. So how did Prabhupada refute this?
One has to treat it. One should not pull out that eye only. That analogy.
Okay, fine. That is correct. Yes, Prabhupada did give that analogy. If somebody has cataract, there is no point in pulling out the eye. So one has to treat. Okay, that's correct. That's correct. The analogy is correct. What you said is correct analogy. At the same time, how does one refute the basic philosophy? Okay.
And actually, we do not see anything coming in existence from zero. Like there was nothing existent, suddenly something came. Prabhupada says that there is no such cases like suddenly something came. I do not remember exactly, but I heard these words.
Yes, this is also a correct point, logical point. Yes. So there is no question of something coming from nothing. Where is there any experience of something coming from nothing? And is there an experience of something going into nothing? You take anything. You break this table. You break this table, then what will be there? The wood powder will be there. You can make it into powder, but still that will be there. So where is the experience of something going into nothing? That's one point. Anything else?
And Prabhupada says that there is no vacuum actually. Vacuum is there only in the minds of this voidism.
No, he doesn't say that. Prabhupada writes in Nectar of Instruction. What he writes? Can there be a vacuum in the mind?
That's what he said. Prabhupada says that there is no vacuum as such. Vacuum exists nahi karta bolte hain.
Yes.
That's what Prabhupada said.
So even if they think that they want to make the mind zero, the very thought of making the mind zero is also a thought. So how can the mind become vacuum? How can the mind become zero? Not possible. Another point Prabhupada says is, so ultimately your goal is to become zero. You're working so hard just for zero? Throughout your life you're working, and at the end what you'll get? Zero. Is this intelligence? So therefore the philosophy has just no substance. Everything is just zero. But Krishna is using even this philosophy to try to convince Arjuna. Even if you believe in this sort of Buddhistic philosophy, still there is no reason for you to lament and not perform your duty. So if you believe this philosophy, okay, you believe this philosophy, that there is no soul exactly, there is no difference between body and soul, everything is one, everything becomes zero. Still there is no need to lament. Why? As Prabhupada is explaining, if there's no difference in body and soul, then what is this body? Only chemicals. Only chemicals. And in device, you give that example, no? So the entire body is made up of so many chemicals worth how cost of. So who laments for that? Who will lament for that? But on the other hand, Srila Prabhupada says, but the truth is what? The truth is that when this small finger is connected to the body and something happens even to the small finger, one is ready to spend millions of rupees for that small finger. But then, if you say it's simply a lump of chemicals, then it's worth nothing. But then Krishna is using this philosophy and he's saying, okay, there is no soul. Then what is it? It's a lump of chemicals. Who laments for loss of chemicals? So why are you lamenting? Why are you lamenting? Don't lament. Fight. So Krishna is very expertly even using this philosophy to somehow try to convince Arjuna to fight. Okay. So now, in the next verse, he uses another philosophy, basically the philosophy of karma. Jatasya hi dhruvo mrityur dhruvam janma mritasya cha tasmad pariharyarthe natvam shochitum arhasi. One who has taken his birth is sure to die, and after death, one is sure to take birth again. Therefore, in the unavoidable discharge of your duty, you should not lament. So now he's using the philosophy of karmavad. So he's saying that, see, all these people you're going to kill, but then according to destiny, they will die anyways. If you kill or don't kill, according to destiny, they're going to die anyways. But after death, what? They will take birth again, according to their karma. So why are you lamenting? So whoever takes birth has to die, and whoever dies has to take birth again. So why are you lamenting? There is no loss. So in this way, now Krishna is using the philosophy of karma to again convince Arjuna to fight. Okay. Now, in the 28th verse, Krishna is using another atheistic philosophy to convince Arjuna to fight. Okay, so this is, as Prabhupada writes, the law of conservation of energy. Prabhupada, Krishna is using this. Avyaktadini bhutani vyaktamadhyani bharata avyaktanidhananyeva tatraka paridevana. All created beings are unmanifest in their beginning, manifest in the interim state, and unmanifest again when annihilated. So, what need is there for lamentation? Purport.
Accepting that there are two classes of philosophers, one believing in the existence of soul and another not believing in the existence of soul, there is no cause for lamentation in either case. Either case. Non-believers in the existence of soul are called atheists by followers of the Vedic wisdom. Yet, even if for argument's sake we accept this atheistic theory, there is still no cause for lamentation. Apart from the separate existence of the soul, the material element remain unmanifested before creation. From the subtle state of the unmanifested comes manifestation. Just from the ether, air is generated, and from the air, fire is generated, and from the fire, water is generated, and from water, earth becomes manifested. From earth, many varieties of manifestation take place. Take, for example, a big skyscraper manifested from the earth. When it is dismantled, the manifestation becomes again unmanifested and remains as atom in ultimate stage. The law of conservation of energy remains, but in the course of time, things are manifested and unmanifested. That is the difference. Then, what cause is there for lamentation, either in the stage of in the stage of manifestation or in the stage of unmanifestation? Somehow or other, even in the unmanifested stage, things are not lost. But at the beginning and at the end, all the elements remain unmanifested, and only in the middle are they manifested. And this does not make any real material difference.
Okay. So this is another theory that Krishna is using. So he's saying it's only a difference in manifestation and unmanifestation. So the example of the building. So building is constructed, you break down the building, the amount of earth remains the same. It's only the size and shape that is the difference. So law of conservation of energy remains. So you kill all these people, they're made up of what? Earth, water, fire, air, ether. So you kill them, the earth, water, fire, air will remain. Only the shape of the body is not there. Right? So Krishna is using these type of atheistic philosophies to somehow convince Arjuna to fight. So that's how Krishna is somehow using these different philosophies. Okay. And finally, the last verse of this section, not last verse, second last verse. Asharyavad pashyati kashyidenam, asharyavad vadati tateva chanya, asharyavad chainamanya shrunoti, shrutmapyenam vedana chaiva kasyat. Some look on the soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Right. So the whole subject matter is amazing. Okay, purport.
Gita Upanishad is largely based on the principle of the Upanishad. It is not surprising to also find this phrase in the Katha Upanishad 1 to 7. Sarva Sarvavanyapi
Shravanayapi bahubir yona labhya shrunvanto api
Sarvantopi
bhavo yamna
Bhavo
vidyu asharyo vakta kushalosya labdha asharyosya jnata kushlanushishta.
The fact is that the atomic soul is within the body of a gigantic animal. In the body of a gigantic banyan tree, and also in the microbic germs, millions and billions of which occupy only an, an inch of space, is certainly very amazing. Men who is a poor fount of knowledge and men who are not austere cannot understand the wonders of the individual atomic spark of spirit, even though it is explained by the greatest authority of knowledge, who imparted lessons even to Brahma, the first living being in the universe. Owing to a gross material conception of things, most men in this age cannot imagine how such a small particle can become both so great and so small. So men look at the soul proper as wonderful either by constitution or by description. Illusioned by a material energy, people are so uh, ig- engrossed in subject matter of sense gratification that they have very little time to understand the question of self understanding. Even though